We're so excited to finally share our first episode of Spilling the Jasmine Tea, which, confession time, we actually re-recorded because of our dear friend, perfectionism.
If you grew up in an Asian household, you might be familiar with that voice, the one that says 98%, where's the other two? But how about you, Amanda? When has perfectionism got to you?
I remember in my Year 12 VC English exam, I thought my paragraph was too messy, so I crossed it all out and rewrote it, and I actually didn't finish the exam on time. What about you, Leanne?
For me, it was when I printed my reflection cards, and only at that point I doubted the whole thing, and they sat under my desk untouched for another 9 months.
Classic. While the aftertaste of perfectionism still lingers, we're learning to savor the experience. And we're so excited to share with you what we brewed. If you grew up drinking jasmine tea in an English breakfast dominant country, you're probably wondering where your fellow jasmine tea drinkers are at. Well, look no further because they're right here.
Welcome to Spilling the Jasmine Tea, where we unpack culture, identity, and the taboo topics we grew up whispering about. We're your hosts, Vianne
and Amanda, two Vietnamese Australian women, bringing our stories, expertise, and a whole lot of honesty to the table. From family and money to body image and capitalism, no topic is off limits.
We invite you to join our listening ritual. Pour yourself a cup of tea, maybe jasmine, and sip along as we
spill the jasmine tea. So let's get into today's episode.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Amanda, so what stories do you have for us today?
So I wanted to kick us off with talking about a time where I didn't spill the tea and I kept all the tea inside of me and it just kept brewing and brewing until it became bitter.
Oh my gosh. Okay, now do spill.
So I used to keep everything to myself. I would want to present this perfect image of myself, that I had no problems and no worries. I was always a happy-go-lucky person, and that's what I was known for in a lot of my friend circles. It was like, oh, Amanda's always happy, she's always smiling. But inside it actually became very depressed. I didn't know it at the time. I wasn't aware of depression and anxiety at 15, but in hindsight, in 2020 vision, I was becoming quite severely depressed. I think that's really what happens when you don't spill the tea. When you keep it all inside of you and it crushes you and you don't even know how to live anymore. But since I've learned to spill more tea, make a bit of a mess and just enjoy being in the mess, I feel so much lighter.
Very similar to what you described. I feel like learning that lesson to spill the tea on myself has also helped me feel so much lighter. Probably the biggest example that comes to mind is when I was in my early 20s, my parents divorced, and that's a normal thing that happens, but I could feel these kind of older traditional beliefs about saving face and not wanting to share what's going on outside of the family kind of thing. But I remember thinking, I'm fed up, I'm stressed, I'm very sad. I need to just like be open about what's going on, and I don't actually care how it makes me look. I'm just going to tell people that I trust. And I already started spilling the tea, like talking to different people, even new people that I met. And I was so shocked by how many people actually had such a similar story to me about what happened. And I think that's what helped me get so much support rather than it being like a really prolonged, sad, gloomy period. I got help really early on. And
professional help, or?
Actually, it was social first, and then it encouraged me to seek other professional help. And I think similar to that was my mum's version of spilling the tea on herself, like just being vulnerable and open about what happened. I remember she'd been a stay-at-home mum for 14, 15 years, which is a really long gap. And after the divorce was thinking about going back to work, supporting herself, a bit of a necessity as well. And she walked into the Apple store, like my iPhone's broken, and was just like having a casual chat with the manager. And she told me that the manager was so touched by her story. She was like tearing up and she's like, why don't you apply for a job here? And she went through the whole process. And at the time, I remember, it's probably not good of me, but I was like, it's really competitive to work at the Apple store. I don't know how she would pass everything. But she did, and that was her return to the workplace,
Wow.
is being an Apple genius.
Yeah.
And I think it started with that kind of vulnerability, and then
Mm.
that manager just inviting her to apply.
Yeah, I feel like we are afraid of being vulnerable, of spilling the tea because we're worried about how other people would react. And we think that people would think that it's too much and don't want to deal with our tea.
Mm,
This analogy is really going, huh? They don't want to share the tea, they don't want to drink the tea.
mm,
But in reality, there are a lot of people in our world who don't have the emotional intelligence and the empathy to be able to hold that space. But at the same time, there are a lot of people who know how to and are willing to. And that makes the biggest difference when we do find those people. It's so healing to spill the tea, to let it out, to stop
mm.
keeping it inside of you and letting it overbrew and become bitter.
Mhm. So what I'm hearing is it's actually very healthy to spill the tea.
Yeah, absolutely. And we
Mm,
probably see it in a lot of our work as well, right? You as a
mm,
psych and me as a dietitian.
100%.
Yeah, do you want to share more about
Yeah.
your work?
My background is organizational psychology, which basically looks at well-being and performance for individuals, teams, and organizations. I started off working in very corporate settings, management consulting, organizational development, leadership workshops, coaching, all that kind of stuff, and then transitioned into community health and now one-on-one counseling for people of color adults who have issues in the workplace but really want to talk about how work and culture and family all come together to impact their well-being.
Mm,
And the reason I am passionate about spilling the tea, I think it's been a theme throughout all of my work. I went into the workplace being very optimistic, a bit naive, but super open minded of, you know what, we can do culture change, like
mm,
organization wide culture change, if we follow these principles, and employee well being can be boosted by these things. And I was so excited by all of that.
mm,
And I think it's an interesting experience living through COVID as well and seeing pretty harsh realities of the responses from governments, organizations, what happens when disaster strikes, financial performance is bad, and how do they treat their employees and think about the community
mm,
when everyone is struggling.
mm,
And even before COVID, I was kind of getting this whiff of, we talk about leadership and how to create the best environment for your employees, but some of it is starting to seem quite like not genuinely here to help employees, but more like a tick box exercise to make the
mm,
organization look good.
mhm.
And that has greater benefits, of course, for the leadership team, but not necessarily the people who are making the work happen.
Yeah.
So I was getting a little bit jaded. And it was through people who helped me kind of see the truth, like the broader systems of what's going on,
Mm.
and not clinging so tightly to like theory, idealistic
Mm.
beliefs.
Yeah.
I started to be like, oh, that is what's happening,
Yeah.
And it's things like maybe delivering anti racism training, but then there is racism among the team that is
Mm.
delivering the training. And that is very at odds with my attitudes. And it was
Mm.
just getting to the point of, I can't unsee this, and I also
Mm.
can't support it either.
Yeah. And that's when you decided to exit.
Yes, I exited. I tried something new. I had almost like identical experiences again.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what led me to try and work for myself, like create a
Mm.
space where maybe I can attract or find other people with similar values, and we can kind of like help each other by just talking about the truth. We don't
Mm.
have to be so like by the book. Like if you follow these steps ABC, you will be happy at work. I don't think
Mm.
it works so
Mm-hmm.
simplistically,
Yeah. Especially as people of color with the structural gaslighting of, for example, a racist incident happens and you clock it, but then other people don't talk about it. There's no conversation about it. And if you bring it up, they're like, no, I don't think they meant it like that. And then you're just like, am I imagining it? Am I too sensitive? Is it me? No one else is talking about it. And
Exactly.
then you internalize that and you're like, oh, I'm too much, I'm too sensitive, I need to shut that part of myself down. But then there's still this discomfort within you because internally you know that that's what's happening, but there's no one else to validate you. And it eats away at your self-esteem and your self-worth.
Oh my God, you're expressing it so well. That's exactly the experience I had, bringing it to my managers of like, oh, this weird thing happened, and always getting that response. It's not about race, or I don't want you to think it's about race or gender.
And they're often like white, cisgendered, and they're saying it's not about race.
100%. But it was peers who maybe were more senior in terms of a few years of experience, not necessarily at the top of their career level of authority, but they were the ones that spilled the tea for me. They're like, when you work with that person, you have to be aware that they're quite judgmental about this. Watch out for these types of projects. Just basically spilling the tea about the truth. It helped me so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People who aren't afraid to talk about the truth rather than the facade, I guess. Yeah.
Totally. And it's a bit of a minefield to navigate as well because trust is so important. But I'm curious about your story as well and what brought you to being a non-diet dietitian. Can you share more about your journey?
Yes. I went through university to become a dietitian, and I wasn't even sure if I wanted to become a dietitian at the end. My master's, there was a lot of placement, and that was traumatic as fuck for me. We are swearing on this podcast, apparently. And it was because of the structure in hospitals, not my world. It's like a corporate world. Like I just cannot fit in there. But I was like, if this is what it means to be a dietitian, I don't know if I can do that. It was only in the last week of school, it was careers week, and we had several different dietitians in various fields come and talk to us. But there was this one dietitian called Fiona Sutherland, the mindful dietitian, and she came to talk about health at every size approach, which is this non-diet approach, which is looking at health from a more holistic lens, removing this idea that weight loss equals healthier and fat equals bad, and rehumanizing dietetics. So really helping people as their whole person, which includes not just their nutrition and movement and health habits, but the systems that we live in and their relationship with that. So it was just this whole different approach to looking at nutrition and dietetics. That was the first time I was like, oh, maybe I could be a dietitian.
Wow. That was lucky to come in at the very end of your course.
Wow. Like, really, she really changed everything for me. And so when I started practicing as a dietitian a year later, because I was still traumatized from placement, so I just went off and became a scuba instructor. Until COVID forced me back home and was like, well, you got to do something a little bit more stable and purposeful, I guess, with your life. And so I went into the field of dietetics, and particularly teaching non-diet dietetics. And the field that I have decided to focus on is PCOS, or polycystic ovarian syndrome. And weight gain is a very common symptom of PCOS. And a lot of people with PCOS live in bigger bodies and get stigma from healthcare workers. And I see what it does to them and their self-esteem, and they really tie their self-worth on their weight. And this leads to yo-yo dieting, the restrict and binge cycle, emotional eating, rigid food rules, and internalized shame. And what I've seen is when you have so much shame around all of that, your body, your eating, your movement, all of that, it stops you from being able to do what you need to do to improve your health. And then what I've seen in my consultation sessions with my clients, and I also run group programs, it's honestly so incredible, particularly the group programs, because a lot of people are very intimidated by group programs because they're like, all of this shame that I have around my weight, around my inability to eat healthy. But then when you hear someone else say, hey, last night I ended up binge eating because I was overthinking about all the food rules, so I just didn't eat. And then at the end of the day, I ended up binging on all of the chocolate in the pack. and you had that experience last week and you felt so much shame around that. But then you realize, oh, other people experience that too. There's not something wrong with me, but it's a phenomenon that when you don't eat all day, you end up having cravings and binging. That's just how it works. And just that itself, just hearing someone else go through a similar experience, there's something that happens in you that's just like, ah. And just that is such an impactful moment. That spilling that tea, it means that you're no longer holding it all inside of you. And you're actually sharing it with other people, and they're sharing their tea as well. And all of a sudden, your teapot gets lighter. And then after that, your mind is so much clearer to be able to make better decisions and take the right actions that actually support your health. I remember for one of my first groups, I was vulnerable and shared a bit of my own tea first. And that was what led to other people feeling comfortable to spill the tea to a depth where it was truly impactful and meaningful, right? Because we can just gossip and spill the tea from a surface level and it's kind of just like, oh, you know, we can just bitch or whatever. But to a point where it's like, you know, actually being vulnerable and sharing a part of you that holds that shame and you actually want to hide away. You don't want people to see, but when you do that and they still see you as a human, that's where safety and trust is created. And that's where other people feel more comfortable to share. And I guess that's what we're trying to do here in this podcast. We've been very fortunate to have had this connection for about a year. And yeah, we've kind of naturally had this progression of spilling the tea, particularly in terms of our second gen Vietnamese Australian experience. And there's been so many conversations for me that I haven't really been able to have with other people. One, because it takes that trust and that knowing that the other is able to hold space, because it's really jarring when the other person can't hold space and you're being vulnerable and they're kind of like dismissive. But yeah, when you have someone that you know can hold space for you and vice versa, you know, these conversations start to flow more naturally. And that's when we really decided to start a podcast, because we were like, we need to have more of these conversations.
Yes, I mean, we've struggled to find the space in ourselves, even though I feel like personally lucky to have a good source of support around me now. But it has been hard over the years finding like a truly safe space to talk through things, and especially the jasmine tea portion of Spilling the Jasmine Tea. I think we both have this similar lived experience in terms of our parents were refugees and we've grown up with their beliefs, and what they taught us was important, which is so different to the dominant Western beliefs, maybe from school or work that we've been exposed to.
And even in terms of their experience of being a refugee, you know, a lot of their lives they were in fight, flight, survival mode. And so, you know, unintentionally they instilled these values upon us. And we are so privileged that our parents sacrificed so much to be able to give us this life that is so comfortable and that we don't need to live in fight, flight, survival mode. But then having parents that are still in that mode, are still trying to teach us those ways because that's what helped them survive, but it's not necessarily what is the most supportive for us to thrive. That nuance is a conversation that I thought about from such a young age. And again, coming back to when I was depressed at 15, it was these thoughts coming up, like the difference is that I didn't have anyone to spill the tea with. And so, yeah, it's these nuances of conversations, the taboo topics that we often don't talk about because either in our Western culture or Eastern culture, it's we want to save face or it disrupts the system.
Yeah, and there are so many extremely sensitive topics like the war, politics, all those things that you just like, where do you talk to people about that then?
Yeah, and the topics that want to cover or have covered, because we're actually re-recording our first episode. So we've actually recorded all of season 1 and we've talked about, what are our topics?
Boundaries with your parents, managing conflict, business.
Capitalism, money,
body image.
Oh, yeah. Such good topics. And we've really found our flow as we've gone on as well. So that's why we wanted to hit you hard in the first one.
Not because we're perfectionists and wanted to re-record.
But yeah, that's another thing that's often taboo, like showing the journey. We have this perception of we have to show perfectionism. We have to show that we haven't struggled, that this is so effortless for us. But you will see throughout our episodes from the second onwards, like our journey of becoming more confident with speaking on podcasts, even in this episode, I feel. So that's really why we started Spilling the Jasmine Tea. And so we hope that it resonates with you, the listeners. But I want to know, Vianne, why do you think it's important to spill the tea? I know we've already covered why it's personally important for ourselves, but what do you think is the greater impact of spilling the tea, particularly the jasmine tea?
Firstly, to dispel a little bit of the myth or clarify what we mean, I think there's this idea that spilling the tea just equals malicious gossip. A time and place for everything, but that is not what we're focusing on. I think based on our shared experiences of having all of these conflicting thoughts and like, how do I process these, wanting to find a safe space to talk about it. What we mean by spilling the jasmine tea is more having a trusting space to explore taboo topics, especially in Vietnamese, Asian, or collectivist cultures where because of survival or safety reasons
or culture
or just the culture, not being able to explore it. And you shared an example early on of what happens when you don't spill, keep it all on the inside. It really just, can I say, ferments. It gets stinky.
All the analogies today.
And I've experienced that too. In terms of exploring my Vietnamese identity, I definitely had this whole period of hating it. I've gone through periods of hating my Vietnamese identity, hating my female identity, like just having so much resentment towards it. And I didn't talk to anyone about it. And it so really was brewing in a bad way. And I just really didn't like how it felt. It made my outlook on everything, myself, the future, not look positive. And I didn't like where that was headed. So when I tried something different, you know, reclaiming the identity and just figuring out what it uniquely means for me, it really did feel a lot lighter, and especially sharing it with other people, learning from other people as well. Like, side story, my Vietnamese teacher, who is my friend that I pay to talk to me in Vietnamese for an hour, because no one will have the patience to listen to me like try and squeeze out one word at a time. We were really bonding over, when you got in trouble with your mom, what did she say to you? And it was identical, the way that our parents, especially our mums, would tell us off. It really made me feel like, oh, I'm not alone. You know, like from the outside in, it can sound like really toxic, but it's a shared experience, and I don't have to feel ashamed that that was my experience. There's commonality with other people around it.
So what do you think is the greater impact to the Asian Australian community or people in the diaspora that we want to reach? What do you think the impact of spilling a tea and having these candid conversations about taboo topics so that we feel less alone, how does that serve the community?
My answer is going to sound like a conspiracy theory. I think we challenge a lot of the existing structures when we do this. We live in a Western society that is individualistic, which encourages every person to look out for yourself or prioritize yourself. And that means having your own nuclear family in your own house. Each household owns their own lawnmower and toolkit, and you're responsible for your own feelings, like resolve it yourself, all of those kinds of things.
All your health problems, work problems,
just you.
Don't share with other people. It's not a problem with the system. If there's a problem with you, fix it within yourself.
Fix it within yourself. And so when we are openly sharing what the struggles are with other people, I think we challenge these structures who benefit a very small minority, basically the top 1%, but not 99% of the community. And we can basically find power, firstly, knowing we're not alone. Secondly, removing some of that shame that we spoke about that brews when you do keep it to yourself. And basically, when you can be vulnerable and learn from other people as well, know that we're all a work in progress, we're all trying to figure it out. You really find an alternative to what things were like before. So I think it's breaking down a lot of the power structures when you do open up about it. Is that aligned with what you think?
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny because you're like, oh, it sounds like a conspiracy theory. And I'm like, sounds like reality.
The truth.
To me.
Some people, I would say, wouldn't want to think about it like the reality, protecting themselves. Well, I don't know, I can fix my own problems.
Yeah, it's true. And again, there's the element of shame around it, right? And that's really what the current existing power structures depend on, you feeling shame and you keeping it to yourself so that the existing power structures can be upheld. But when we have these conversations and we realize that we're not the problem, the structure, the system is the problem, and we start turning on the system and we start changing the way we do things, because we're like, no, I don't consent to the way that things are because it actually doesn't serve us as a collective, the majority of people. That's the revolution. And that's what they don't want.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're starting a revolution, guys.
Started.
Yes, it has started. We're contributing to the revolution.
And that's why we're spilling the jasmine tea.
Yes, exactly.
Well, so through all of the reasons why we're here, you know, what would you say is your vision or goal? What would you like to see with more people spilling the jasmine tea or tuning into these conversations?
Oh, good question. Yeah, I guess to realize that it's okay to have these conversations and to bring it up in your own circles, friends, communities. Because often when no one's having these conversations, there's this tension, right? Because everyone's like just simmering beneath the surface and like everyone's thinking these things or feeling uncomfortable because there's this disconnect. There's this tea that wants to come out of, but it doesn't feel safe to have these conversations yet because no one is talking about it. And if you could be the courageous one in your friendship group, for example, and you bring up, hey, you know, I listened to this really cool podcast. It's hosted by these two really cool Asian Australian women and health professionals who are breaking taboo topics and having candid conversations about this. I found it really interesting. Would you want to listen to it? You share with all your friends. And that sparks a conversation and it helps you realize these money mindset patterns, giving you little hot teasers, little drips. And just that realization helps you break patterns and potentially help you create better ones, healthier ones that bring more peace and pleasure in you. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I think so.
And to your point, when we have more of these conversations and we realize that we actually have a lot of power, we can really create a life that feels fulfilling. And like our dear friend Satinda says, by design and not just by default. When we were brewing the ideas of this podcast, you suggested that rather than coming from a health professional perspective, which we both are, but it would position us as the expert, you suggested that we come from it from a personal storytelling standpoint. And I really love that idea. But can you share more about why you felt like that was important?
I think the storytelling component, firstly, is the most ancient version of passing knowledge and information to the collective. And I don't know about you, but I feel like I learn a lot better through stories and connecting with people that way. To go to like a slightly theoretical perspective, one of the pillars of an evidence-based approach is considered to be anecdotal evidence, which is the stories that you've gathered through your practical work experience. And I think sometimes that can be either discounted in favor for like scientific papers, or it can be overdone. So I think having a mix of the lens that we have been trained in, but really emphasizing the stories and our lived experience as well, that's a really nice way to connect with people. I know I seek that when I'm looking for other health practitioners, for myself, or even a YouTuber. If I want to click on their video, it's like, what's their story? Am I kind of interested? Can I connect in a way?
Yeah, for sure. And I guess it really fits with our theme of having these conversations about taboo topics, building that trust and breaking that taboo. We can really only do that if we share from our personal stories. And for me, it's definitely an edge. I feel nervous like sharing some of these stories because I'm so used to this Western values of like keeping all your dirty
boundaries.
Yeah.
Dirty parts. Keep your dirty laundry to yourself.
Yeah, keeping the tea in and being professional. But I'm the same. I learned so much from people sharing their stories. And I really like that this is pushing my edge to share more personal stories because it's something that I'm working on.
Yay! And in a way to heal, and that's part of your journey as well.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we can do it together.
Yeah. So do you want to share about our vision for Spilling the Jasmine Tea and what we want to bring about it from this podcast?
Well, based on our experiences, I would really love to grow a community, a place where we can learn from each other based on this shared trust, storytelling, being vulnerable in a contained way, and that rather than having this individual shame, we can open up with each other and learn from each other. So the vision is a really powerful community of Asian diaspora based on our lived experiences and what we can offer to this community to thrive as our authentic selves.
Yeah. And from that, creating connections, whether that's friendships or business partnerships, collaborations like this funky one here, you know, maybe even romantic relationships, you know, because when you're your authentic self, when you feel safe to be your authentic self, you shine and you thrive and you attract the actual right people for you. Only since I've become more comfortable with myself and allowed myself to be my authentic self, I've attracted so many aligned people who don't just feel like they tolerate me or want me to fit in, but I am just myself and I'm accepted and I feel like I belong. And this friendship collaboration, it feels like we're both ourselves and we bring our whole selves to this podcast and to our friendship. There's no, oh, we have to be this way. I can't say that. I have to do this. We really bring what's coming up for us to our friendship, whether that is fun, joyful things like this collaboration, or sometimes it's really challenging experiences that we have as well, and we can workshop and navigate that together.
And it feels so nice to have that space. So hopefully this is a stepping stone to sharing that with other people as well.
Yeah. Yes.
Yay.
So yes, we hope that we can build a very strong community. Looking down the line, we can have community events, and we want to build this with you as well. This is just the starting point, and because it is focused on community, we want to know what you want. And so if you have any ideas or thoughts, or you just want to have a chat with us, please, you can DM us on our social medias. Do you want to share your Instagram, Bian?
My Instagram is AnneTamPsych, which will be spelt out in the show notes.
Yeah, and mine is at heyitsamanda.x, which again will be in the show notes.
There's a lot of juicy topics in store that we've already started to tease, and we're super open to hearing other thoughts on more juicy tea to spill. So we look forward to continuing this journey together.
Yeah. Thanks, Ian.
Thanks, Amanda. Thanks so much for soaking up our very first episode of Spilling the Jasmine Tea. If you're ready to spill a little tea yourself, maybe you want to share this episode with someone to share a cup with. We've been so excited to share what we have in store with you and to grow the community. To get us started, we've partnered with some incredible Melbourne-based Asian Australian businesses for a very special launch giveaway. There's over $400 worth of prizes to be won and more than 4 different prize packs as well. Things ranging from handmade pottery to very high quality tea, Asian snack pack campers, and Asian cookbooks. There is so much to be won. All the details are in the giveaway post, which you can find in the show notes. And to make sure you don't miss out on any details, subscribe to our Substack newsletter at Spilling the Jasmine Tea. On top of that, one of our big partners, O2HT, is not just big on spilling, but also on the art of sharing and reimagining Eastern tea rituals for our modern lifestyles. They're giving us a special 20% off discount for Spilling the Jasmine Tea listeners during this launch period. Just use the code JASMINE20 at their website for 20% off their beautiful tea packs, just in time to get a present for your friends, family, or yourself as a little end of year treat. I myself am currently enjoying the delicious grapefruit jasmine tea, of course. It's so yummy. We're so excited to grow this little tea house with you, and we'll be back in the next episode to spill more jasmine tea.